Welcome to day number 30 of your acceleration training. Today we're going to talk about outcomes. If you remember right, I used to be a police officer and we always had this friendly banter with the firefighters. You know why? Because people don't really like the police, but they really love the firefighters, right? Firefighters take, cats and they pull them out of trees, and they always have treats for the kids, and people want to come tour the fire station and, play with the fire truck and slide down the pole. And let's be real, firefighters are really good at cooking chili. That was a rib for all my firefighter friends out there. But everybody wants to be a firefighter. Why? Because that's who they call to save the day. We have a fire, we have an emergency, we call the firefighters, right? And it feels good on the inside. It feels good to be wanted. But that's not how you want to live your life. So you don't want to be a firefighter. And that's the problem, is that most of you end up in this position where you've become a professional firefighter. What does that mean? Anytime there's a problem, who do they call? They call you. You put your hat on, you put your jacket on, and you put your little siren on. Woo! You respond to the scene with your fire truck and your fire hose, and you put out the fire. And then you stand there and you look off into the distance and you're like, that feels good, because thank you, Mr. Firefighter, for saving us, right? But that's ultimately what it becomes for you, is you become this professional firefighter. But a firefighter, think about it. What's the difference between a firefighter and a police officer? Police officer is proactive. A firefighter is reactive. They react to the fires. They put the fires out. And you know what I'm talking about. Because most of your days right now are filled with fires. Little fires, big fires, medium-sized fires, somebody else's fires, it doesn't matter. And you like to complain about the fires, but at the same time, deep down inside, you love putting out fires. It makes you feel special, makes you feel important. But ultimately, it's a big time waster. See, because if you're putting out fires, that means you're not doing the work that you should be doing. If you're putting out somebody else's fires, you're being busy, you're not being productive. And there's a difference between the two. When's the last time that you got home and you were worn out, and your spouse, your significant other, your kids, somebody asked you, how was work today? And you're like, man, it was so busy. And then they ask you, well, what was it that you did? And you respond with, I don't know, a lot of stuff. But were you actually productive? See, most of the time we're busy, but we're not productive. And I fall into that same boat. But the question is, how do we transition? How do we transition from focusing on the outcomes and not the fires? How is it that we focus on distraction and what it is that it does for us and the insanity around it, and then being able to push that to the side so we don't have to deal with it? See, there's a difference between important and urgent, right? Important is usually yours. It's important for you to get it done. Urgent is usually somebody else's fire. You leave the house, your wife calls you, Junior threw up, she got to go to work, you got to run back home, you got to clean up, and your whole day got thrown into chaos, right? Distractions, distractions, distractions. Some of them you control, some of them you don't. But how do we maintain focus? See, when I was part of the SWAT team, we did some training with the snipers. I never wanted to be a sniper because, well, I can't sit still for a long period of time. But we trained with the snipers, and we started at 100 yards, right? Very focused with our rifles on the targets. You could see through the scope. You could see the target in the crosshairs, pull the trigger nice and slow, boom, hit the target. Then you go to 200. Target gets smaller. Then you go to 400. The targets get smaller. And the farther away you go, the smaller the target gets, the more you have to take into account. Distance, elevation, windage, what type of round you have inside of what type of weapon, the velocity, the curvature of the earth, all of these different things you have to take into account. And it's the same thing with you. The further you are away from your target, the more focus it takes. It's going to take sight alignment, maintaining that focus on that target. It's going to take trigger control, making sure that the actions that you take are going to guarantee that you hit the target. And it's not once, and it's not twice, and it's not 3 times. It's day in and day out. So we're really super focused on what our targets need to be in every area of our life, not just our business, and our physical body, and our relationship with God, and our spirituality, with our family, and our business. There's always going to be one thing. This is the one thing that I'm focused on. And you can have multiple targets. I get it, but you won't hit multiple targets. So it's one thing. In the next 90 days, what's the one thing that I'm focused on inside of my body, inside of my being, inside of my balance, inside of my business? And then you start to answer the questions. What is it? Why is it important? When am I going to get it done, and how? And that's when all of these pieces start to fall into place. So what is it? What is your 90-day target? Why is it so important to you? In other words, why is it so important for you to date your wife every single week for the next 13 weeks? When are you going to get it done? I'm going to get it done in the next 90 days. Okay, how are you going to get it done? I'm going to schedule time ahead of time to make sure that every single week, regardless of what comes up, I have it in my calendar. You can't schedule over it. You can't delete it. You can't erase it. It's set. She knows it. I know it. I'm going to get it done. That's what we're talking about when we talk about getting clear and getting focused. You want to get paid? You want to get laid? Clear, focus. That's what it's all about. All right. Now it's time for today's assignment. So I want you to go back and look at the targets that you set across your core four: body, being, balance, and business. Look at them, and now I want you to adjust them. Adjust them because you've changed. You've changed over the last few weeks in who you are. So your target needs to change in proportion with your change. You may have said, I want to make an extra $50,000 in the next 90 days. Hey, that's great, but you and I both know that you're selling yourself short. You might say, hey, I want to take my wife on a date once a month. That's cute, but you and I both know you could do it once a week. So what's the target, right? What's the expanded target? And I want you to think inside of each of these four areas, right? I want you then, as soon as you're done figuring out what your expanded core four targets are, I want you to record a 2-minute video telling us what your outcomes are inside of each of these areas. Now, one little asterisk, right? Think of it this way. You're going to have 4 targets, but one's going to be the primary. Come hell or high water, doesn't matter, whatever it takes, this is the one you're going to get done. Could be in your relationship with your spouse, it could be with your kids, it could be your spirituality, it could be your physical body, or most of you will pick something inside of your business. But regardless, you're going to have your primary. So in your 2-minute video, what is your primary target and your expanded target across all 4 of these areas? All right, you know what time it is. It's time to get after it. 3, 2, 1, off you go.